And I'm Debbie Fagoni, and I'm going to be talking about water leaks and water efficiency. I'll talk about why we want to conserve water, how to find a leak, how to irrigate efficiently, and about rebates. The goal of the class is to say goodbye to water waste and hello to water efficiency. Who wants to waste water? Nobody. We all want to use water efficiently. One way of doing that is water-wise gardens, also called California-friendly, drought-tolerant, Xeriscape. And a drought-tolerant garden uses about 60% of the water that a typical house uses. It's because of the type of plants. So the deeper the roots, the deeper you water the plant, and the less evaporation. That's the main reason why a lot of these plants are water-wise. It's how you water them, and I'll talk about that more coming up. So water-wise or water-wise? Why do you want to do it? It conserves resources, it's less water, less yard trimmings, it saves time and money, 80% less time gardening, no mow and blow, and it invites the good animals, birds, bees, hummingbirds, and butterflies. And Southern California is arid. Also, to motivate you, there's a $3 per square foot rebate, details coming up at the end. There's so many different styles of water-wise landscapes, and it depends on what you find beautiful and attractive. Everyone's got their own taste. Carl was talking about the upcoming succulent class. Succulents are low water, but so are a lot of other plants. The plants right here, incredibly low water, but same with the plants here. Basically, same amount of water use. So don't judge a plant by its water use because you never know. How many of you want to bring in color and birds and bees and butterflies? This landscape does it. How many of you have small places where a lot of plants won't fit, but maybe you can nicely tuck in some succulents in there, water with a hose once every week or two? If you want color, flowers, this landscape is all native. Native plants are wonderful, typically more resilient. This landscape was an award-winning landscape years ago in Cucamonga Valley Water District. And then there's this landscape. This is a minimalist look, not the look that you want for the program, not acceptable, and likely a city violation. Plants are good. Having the greenery cleans the air and cools the environment. So putting in plants is wonderful. Having some mulch in your landscape is good, but greenery in with it is important. What can you do inside the house to save water? Turn off the water when you brush your teeth, use low-flow shower head, and fixing leaky faucets and toilets. So a tiny little drip leak isn't a big deal, still something you want to look into, but certain leaks can leak up to 4,800 gallons a day per fixture. That's what you really want to focus on. Did you know that doing a load of dishes is only 5 gallons of water in the dishwasher, but when you turn the faucet on at the sink, it's about 1.5 gallons a minute. So instead of rinsing your dishes, that was my old dog, you invite my dog over, he'll clean them, and then you turn the dishwasher on, 5 gallons of water, not much. So is your bill higher than it normally is? Have you heard that you have a leak? How do you know what you can't see? Cucamonga Valley Water District's Water Watch program is how. Cucamonga Valley Water District has 50,000 smart water meters. That means that there's a device on the meter that reads hourly usage. If there's a continuous flow at your home and it's large enough, the Water Watch program will tell you about it. They'll notify you via email or they'll call you. And if it's big enough, they might even come over to your home and take a site visit. They work with 500 residential customers on water leaks a month, and their team of experts are here to help. So what's their leak process? You want to look in the obvious places: toilets, autofills, water filters. You want to look and listen. You want to isolate it to inside or outside. And then you want to call the experts. And if you still can't find it, you want to call a leak detection company. And we'll go through all that now. This is a photo of the amazing experts at Cucamonga Valley Water District who are there to help. Before you call them, the whole goal is to try to teach you to figure it out on your own. So where is your water meter? Typically, your water meter is in the parkway, the area between the street and the sidewalk. If you're in a neighborhood that doesn't have sidewalks, it's going to be right in the front of your property, paralleling the street. This is typically what the water meter looks like inside. If your house is above the meter and the street is below, you are responsible for everything from your side of the meter up. That's any city, that's kind of how it works. So if you have a leak at the gasket or anything further up to your home, that's your responsibility to fix. So how do you open it up and read your meter? You can go out there with the screwdriver, pop it up. I recommend you be careful of spiders. Not that I'm afraid of spiders, but I'm not a fan of black widows. So open it up carefully. Some of the boxes will have a little device connected to the lid of the box. That's how they have the magical smart meter reading and know if you've got leaks. Make sure you don't disconnect those wires. This is what a typical water meter looks like. And if we zoom in, this is how you read your meter. So the first number is gallons or it's in cubic feet. We'll talk about that. That's what looks like your odometer on your car. The next is the second hand. If that's moving and no one's using water in the house, that means no one's taking a shower, doing a load of laundry, washing dishes, no water used at all. And if that's moving, you know you have a water leak. Another way that you know is the tiny little spinning device right there. If that's moving, it's a small leak, but you've got a leak. Some of the meters have a little blue dial like that. Anything that's moving on here when no water's used in the house, you've got a leak. I talked about cubic feet. Water is measured for most water agencies in cubic feet. 1 cubic foot is 7.48 gallons. If you think you've got a leak because you went out to your meter, it's moving, and no one's using water in the house, check out Cucamonga Valley Water District's website, CVWDwater.com, and go to leak detection. If you go to this section, it'll give you a step-by-step of what to do to find the leak. So what could it be? It could be in-ground swimming pool, irrigation system, main line, toilet, water softener, and we'll go through everything. Also, right on this site, it reminds you to click here to update your contact information. If there is an issue at your house, Cucamonga Valley Water District, the staff will call you. But if your contact is from another century, which it could be, they can't get a hold of you. So remember to always update your telephone number, email address when it changes. Where could that leak be? How many of you have drip irrigation? There's a lot of benefits to drip because it doesn't spray water into the air. But if a drip valve is stuck open, water will just keep running and running and running, and you'll never know it. Water is below the ground. Sometimes it's covered with mulch, and you can't see it. Once in a while, you'll see it because it'll start puddling at the top, and that's your sign that there's a problem. Look at this situation. Which one of these areas do you think has a leak? Common sense would think it's the picture on the left, but you never know. Water goes down and it finds the path of least resistance. These are two photos of a pinhole leak in a pipe. That teeny tiny hole right there can throw 250 gallons an hour. So a pinhole leak in a pipe with water rushing past it, causing it to grow, can grow by 10 gallons a day. So it can soon be, within a month, 250 gallons an hour, 6,000 gallons a day. Filling a pool, or enough water to fill a pool in 3 days. But how do you know what you can't see? These are actual pictures of pipes with pinhole leaks. It's a big deal. If you can't find it because it's below ground, but you know there's something there, that's when you call the experts at Cucamonga Valley Water District. They come out with their listening devices and they'll help you pinpoint where the situation may be. If they can't, you might have to call a leak detection company, a professional leak detection company. And then once it's located, you will have to pay to fix it. What do you think the #1 issue is of water leaks is? I gave you the answer. It's a running toilet. So which one of these places do you think had a running toilet? Both of them. Running toilets are incredibly common. I see them everywhere I go, including, you know, I'll just go to the grocery store, I'll go to a restaurant. They're everywhere. It's the #1 cause of water leaks. And one toilet can flow 250 gallons an hour. So if you see a toilet flowing like that, really flushing, enough for a squirrel to surf on it, it can be 200, I've even seen 300 gallons an hour. So that's almost 5,000 gallons a day. Once in a while, you don't hear it. You know something's leaking in the house. You hear this noise, this whooshing, hissing. You hear a noise, but you're like, I don't know what it is. I don't think it's the toilet. It's not moving. So if that's the case, you want to do a toilet test. You take food coloring. If you don't have food coloring, you can use coffee. You can use soda, something that's going to change the color of the water in the toilet bowl. And then you don't want to flush it. You want to wait 15 to 30 minutes without flushing the toilet and see if the water, the colored water, seeps from the toilet tank into the toilet bowl. If it does, it likely means that your flapper, the device that seals the water from the toilet tank to the bowl, isn't sealing well. And then you just have to fix it, and then your leak should be gone. So one leaking toilet, as I've said, can waste 200 gallons an hour, 292,800 gallons in 2 months, in a billing cycle. That's enough water to fill 18 pools. It's enough water for 17,325 to fill that many water bottles. It's a lot of water. So I highly recommend you always keep an eye on your toilets. The next most common issue with continuous flow or leaks are autofills on pools. If your pool has an autofill that has a little device like a float valve, if it's always making a noise and it's always bubbling, like the picture on the left, that's bad. It should only be making that noise when the pool gets low and it needs to be filled. So rarely should it be making a noise. If you've got too much water in your house, or too much pressure, going into the house, sometimes you'll hear this noise, a loud noise when you turn on the shower or when you turn it off. You may need a pressure reducing valve on your house. If you've got too much pressure, it often will cause noises in the pipes, and it'll cause toilets to leak just a little bit from all that pressure. One simple pressure reducing valve, which should be at about 40 to 80 PSI, will stop the problem. And Cucamonga Valley Water District has a free program where they will have professionals install it for you. It's a great, great program. So back to the pool. How do I know if my autofill isn't working, or if I have a leak in my pool, or if it's just evaporation? Well, take a bucket and put it on the top step of the pool. Fill the bucket with the same amount of water as the water level in the pool. If the bucket doesn't want to stay on the step of the pool, you might need to put a brick or something heavy in there so that it stays solid and doesn't float away or tip over. So you're going to fill the bucket with water at the same level as the pool and wait about 2 or 3 days. This says 24 hours. It depends on how bad the leak is. You'll see that if there is a leak in the pool, the water will drain out of the pool faster than it evaporates out of the bucket. And this is how you know if you've got a leak in the pool, or if your pool autofill is malfunctioning, or if it's just simple evaporation. Or you can pay a leak detection company a lot of money. This is the free way. So how do you isolate the leak if you know that you have one and you're not sure if it's inside or if it's outside? Shut-off valves. So every home is different, and not all homes have shut-off valves. The valves in the photo on the right, the top one is a gate valve. That's the one that you twist tighty-righty to shut it off. Those over time will freeze and get stuck. And if you're not very strong like me, you won't be able to open it up even with WD-40. Ball valves, on the other hand, when the handle is perpendicular with the pipe, water's flowing through, easy to pull it perpendicular to shut the water off. So if you're ever doing plumbing work and you need to put in one of these valves, I highly recommend ball valves. So how do you know if the water's going in the house or if you've got separate shutoff for water to the landscape? Like I said, every home is different. In this case, you can see that the pipe goes into the house there. So it's going from the ground into the structure, into the building. And the one on the right, it's not touching the building, but it's going to the irrigation. You can shut off each one separately. And if you shut off the water going into the house, you would go in the house, turn the sink on, see if water's coming out of the sink. You might have to run it for a minute or two to get the water out of the pipes. If the water shuts off in the house, go out to the water meter and see if the water meter quits spinning. If it does, then you know that the issue is in the house. If it doesn't and it's still moving, then you want to shut off the water to the irrigation. If you now shut off the water to the irrigation, and I highly recommend you turn on a hose that's connected to the irrigation. A lot of hoses are connected to the house, so don't shut that off. Shut off a hose that's connected to the irrigation, or you might have to turn on one of your sprinkler stations. And if no water's coming out of there once you've shut it off, now go back to your meter, check it out, and see if the meter's still spinning. If by some chance, after shutting off the house and shutting off all the water to the irrigation, if it's still spinning, it's possible that your water leak is in the service line, which is the line that goes from the meter to your home. That line in a lot of these homes is as old as the home, and repairing it is your responsibility. So again, the leak finding process, you're going to check toilets, autofills, water filters. You're going to look and listen. You're going to isolate it to inside or outside and call the experts at Cucamonga Valley Water District, and if you need to, a leak detection company. But this amazing team is here to help. Sakura, do you want to do any questions right now?
I am good for the moment. 1 second, let me see if I can launch a poll. Actually, keep on going and I'll launch a poll in a bit.
Okay, great. So the next part of the presentation is, if you don't water water-wise garden, at least water wisely. So as I mentioned, a water-wise garden doesn't just have to be cactus and succulent like some people think. A lot of the photos that you saw in the Garden Savvy landscape program, those plants are very low water and lush looking and beautiful. So we'll talk about how to water no matter what you want in your landscape. First, here are some tips to saving water outside. Water late at night, early in the morning. You don't want to water in the middle of the day because of evaporation and wind, and I've got a great example coming up. Install a smart sprinkler controller. There's a Rebate, and also Cucamonga Valley Water District has an amazing direct install program. Use a broom, not a hose, to clean the driveway and the sidewalk. It's actually state law. Check your sprinklers for leaks, overspray and broken heads. I'm going to show you some pictures of that coming up. If you always see water at one spot in your landscape, it could be that it's just the low point in your irrigation system. So whenever you turn it off, water puddles there. It could be that the valve isn't shutting all the way and you have a little leak right there. And finally, use mulch around your plants to reduce evaporation and to reduce weeds. So what are you doing? No matter how much you water the sidewalk, cement, or brick, it's not going to grow. There's a variety of sprinklers out there. These overhead sprinklers are called rotors. These are typically used on really large landscape golf courses, and they throw about 5 gallons a minute. 5 gallons a minute. That's a lot of water, but they throw it efficiently for large areas. These spray heads, there's the traditional one on the left that throws lots of tiny mist of water. And then on the right, these are newer, more efficient sprinkler heads called rotating heads. They throw big droplets slowly, more like rain. And so because it's a heavier droplet, it goes out and down onto the ground, into the soil, as opposed to misting into the air. Another good example of your conventional heads, a lot of water is lost to misting versus rotating sprinkler heads. I took this picture one morning, and this is when I lived in Rancho Cucamonga, and I was driving to teach a class at Cucamonga Valley Water District, and I left early in the morning and saw this at my neighbor's property, and I just thought it was so funny. I would say, you know, at least 20–30% of that water is being wasted to misting in the air, and then overspray that misses the landscape, goes into the street, down into the gutter. One broken sprinkler head can waste 15 gallons a minute. So while it looks kind of fun, it's a huge water waste. If you see this at your neighbors, I like to say be a Gladys Kravitz and tell them. If you're not comfortable telling them, call Cucamonga Valley Water District, report the address and the sprinkler head, and they will tell the neighbor for you. We want you to water late at night, early in the morning, and yet you're sleeping. So how do you know? Well, I highly recommend that at least once a month, you turn on every station in your irrigation system and check the heads. Make sure they're watering where you want them to and that nothing is broken. So sprinkler heads throw anywhere from 1 to 5 gallons a minute, those pop-up sprinkler heads. Drip, that puts out gallons per hour, like 1 to 2 gallons per hour. So you want to water a lot longer with drip. Overhead sprinklers, maybe 5 to 8 minutes will get that water covering the area that you want to, deep into the soil. For drip, 15 to 25 minutes per station will probably get that water deep into the soil to the roots of the plant. The benefit of drip is that there's no spraying and misting of water into the air, and the water goes exactly where you want it to go. It's not watering everywhere, so you're not going to get weeds all over the place. Less runoff, but if a drip line is stuck on, you can't see it or you won't notice it. And if a drip line breaks, an animal chews it, somebody accidentally cuts it, you may not know that the drip line isn't functioning well until your plants start to die. So you need to keep an eye on them. And again, at least once a month, go out, turn on everything and check it out. There's also microsprays. Microsprays throw small misting of water, but just a couple inches above the ground, and covers a larger area without a lot of water waste. Also, gallons per hour, so you want to run it longer. These work great inside potted plants so that it throws the water throughout the whole pot, if you've got a drip in there, it sometimes will drip, drip, drip and make a hole in the soil straight through to the bottom. So this gets better coverage. Another example of microsprays. And then there's Schrubblers. Schrubblers throw like an umbrella of water, and Schrubblers can do about 5 to 20 gallons an hour. They definitely will get more water out there. So if you have a couple of plants that need more water than others, if you've got it on drip, you can open up that umbrella nice and big and get a lot of water out to the plants, especially great for watering trees. This type of drip is inline drip. Each hole is pre-done in there. The emitters are preset, and they're done so that water can seep out, but roots don't grow into it. It's preset at 12, 18, I think 24 inches. So you can't change where the water comes out. It's already set for you. So if you're planting things in a row, it works great. If you've got things all over the place, as you can see in this landscape, you've got plants in areas where there's no drip line, and then you've got drip going where there's no plants. So this isn't necessarily the best way to water this area. The whole goal of watering plants is to get the water deep into the ground. The deeper you water, the deeper the roots grow because there's something for them to drink. So the plants drink up the water at the ends of the roots, kind of like the end of the straw. You want to water slowly and get it spread out and sink it down. A good method for any of you that have slopes or clay soil, and you know if you have clay soil because the water doesn't absorb fast. It kind of, when you turn on the sprinklers, the water sits there and puddles on top. Or let's say you have a slope, and if you water for more than 3 minutes, the water just starts to pour off the slope and it doesn't absorb into the ground. A great method is called cycle and soak. So you'll run your irrigation for maybe 3 minutes at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you'll get the water down a couple of inches. Now the soils become kind of moist and it absorbs better. So an hour later, you'll water again for a couple of minutes, and the water will get deeper into the soil. Kind of like a dry sponge doesn't absorb as well as a wet sponge. So by the time you've watered it the second time, the soil's nice and moist and it's thirstier and it can absorb it better. Then at 5 o'clock, you can water again for a couple minutes, and now the water's gone deeper into the soil and the plant roots are going as deep down as the water. So cycle and soak is great for slopes. Depends on your irrigation system, how many times you want to run it, how many minutes you'll turn it on. If you get runoff after about 3 minutes, you'll stop it. Maybe you can wait 6 minutes before the water quits absorbing into the soil and runs off. The goal again is to water deep, and when it comes to grass, you want to mow high. If you mow low, there's not as much greenery covering the soil, and so evaporation happens faster. If you mow high, it's got more moisture in the soil, more shade, everything can grow better. Also, if you mow high, those weeds don't have the strength and ability to grow and take over the grass. So if you see on the left, that poor little weed, he can't compete with the grass. As opposed to the grass being short and weak, those bad weeds can take over. So the goal, mow high. And you don't even have to mow as much then. This is another example. The higher you mow, the deeper the roots grow. The less you have to water because the water's getting deep down. It's being shaded out by the grass, and you can reduce your water use and have a more beautiful, thick, lush grass. How low should you go when you're watering your plants? It depends on the plants. But if this is the same plant and you're watering deeper and you've got a healthier root zone, you're going to have more branches and more leaves on that plant. When it comes to trees, a tree, it's not ideal to have it planted in the grass, because if you're watering the grass, you're only watering a couple of inches for the grass roots. But the tree, typically, however tall the plant is, the root zone below should be the same. So you don't want a tree with the root zone the same depth as grass, because if you do, if that tree gets tall and you get some of that good rancho wind, that's what could happen. And I've seen it. I've seen it a couple of times. It's just fascinating. Wind and wet soil, and a tree that didn't have a good root structure to hold it in place, it can't make it. So remember, water deep, and then you don't even have to water as much. Watering efficiently makes everybody happy. It makes a more beautiful, happy, healthy garden. People that tell me that they water every day for a couple minutes, it's the worst thing you could do, because all you're doing is getting the top of the soil wet, and then the sun comes and dries it. And the next day you get the top of the soil wet and the sun dries it. It's better to water less often, deeper. The deeper it goes, the deeper the roots, the less evaporation. Think about a dog on a hot day. Dogs love to dig deep, deep into the soil. And why is that? Because it's nice and cool. So efficient irrigation tips. How many of you know how to control your controller? It's really important that the controller be set right and be adjusted with the seasons. If you're really good about changing it with the seasons, turning it off when it rains, knowing how many minutes per station and how to work it, great, that's wonderful. If you don't, I'll talk to you about Cucamonga Valley's great smart controller program. The couple things that I like to emphasize when setting a controller. If you look at the controller on the right, you've got the date and time, the program start times. I highly recommend you water. I like to water early in the morning. And I like to do that so that if you do have a problem of a broken head or a valve that's stuck open, so once in a while the sprinklers will stay on, because even though the little, the controller is telling it, turn off, there's a piece of dirt or a rock stuck in the valve, the irrigation valve, and it can't close. So you're more likely to catch it sooner. When you leave the house, if something, in the morning when you wake up, the problem will be new and you'll be able to hopefully catch it. Run times on the controller on the right, again, for grass and most shrubs, 8 minutes is typically enough to get the area wet and get the water deep into the soil. I like to do a soil test where you kind of, you can either take a soil moisture probe that you can get at your big box stores for maybe $5, or you can kind of put a shovel or a screwdriver into the soil. Don't check the first couple of inches, but check down about 6 inches. Is it wet down there? Because you want it to be. And then days to water. This time of year, it should be off because we've had rain, but typically fall and winter, 2 days a week is great. Spring and summer, 3 days a week is great. After it rains, typically you can go about 2 weeks without watering. And then double check your controller for the settings. If you have somebody else setting it for you, sometimes it's not done the way that you might like. A lot of controllers, actually all controllers, have different programs. If you look at the controller on the right, you see the at the top right-hand side, PRG is program. You've got 3 to 4 different programs you can set in there. You could turn your grass on 3 days a week, your shrubs 2 days a week, and your trees once a month, because you can set them in the different programs. Same thing with the controller on the left-hand side. You have program A, B, and C. So you can really water each of your areas, whether it be grass, trees, or shrubs, to their needs. And then finally, I want to remind you to put a backup battery in your controller. If the electricity goes out, the controller might turn off and it might set back to factory settings, which might be every day. So a backup battery is a great reminder. You don't have to remember. It remembers for you. Cucamonga Valley Water District has a program where they will install a free smart irrigation controller. If you don't like what they have to offer, there's also rebates on controllers. So these controllers adjust with the weather. When it's raining out, it'll turn off. When it's hotter, it'll increase the water use. And when it's cooler, it'll reduce the water use. But they do have to be set correctly. So it's not just a set it and forget it. You still have to be trained, and they do provide the training on how to use it. A smart controller might be called Extra Smart or Weather Smart, and they're available at your irrigation supply stores and your big box stores. So the rebates that Cucamonga Valley Water District has, there's the Landscape Transformation Program, which is $3 a square foot, and there are some other requirements, but it's to remove your grass and put in drought-tolerant plants. There are rotating sprinkler heads, like the ones that I showed you that water efficiently with big droplets of water, more like rain, $5 a nozzle. Weather-based irrigation controllers. Soil sensors, you would use that instead of a weather-based irrigation controller. And a soil sensor, you put this little sensor underneath the soil in areas in your yard, and when it dries out at the root zone and it starts to get dry, it tells the controller, hey, turn on, it's dry, we need water. There's a rebate of $100 for toilets. They must be 1.1 gallon or less per flush. And if you do need a new toilet, you can enter the contest from today's class or coming up. I believe the toilet they're giving away is a Stealth, which is a really great toilet. I call it the Tesla of toilets. If you need a new washing machine, there's a $160 rebate. There is no rebate for dishwashers, but like I said, using the dishwasher is a very efficient way of getting your dishes clean. For rain barrels, there's a $35 rebate, and for cisterns, depending on the size you get, $250 to $300 a cistern. Cucamonga Valley Water District, their website has more details on it, and to apply for the rebate, you go to SoCalWatersmart.com. More information on the programs. There's the residential controller program that we talked about. They will train you how to use it. So you need to be a little tech savvy, and it'll just water when it needs to. The pressure regulator program, if you've got high pressure, this is an excellent program. And then there's also the turf rebate program. So what do you think? Do you think you can find your running toilet? Do you think you can outrun your running toilet? You can do it. And then you can rest in comfort afterwards. So for more information, you can contact me, or you can contact Socorro. Her information is here, and it was at the beginning of the PowerPoint. And now we've got a lot of time for questions and answers. Now I can look in the chat. Okay. So questions?
If you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat box, and Debbie can answer those questions you might have.
Okay, there you go.
So Debbie, we have a question from Director Gibney.
Okay.
Any tips for watering grass on a slope?
Yes. So again, that cycle and soak is a great way to do it. If you've got a slope, but when I lived in Rancho, I had a giant slope in the back of my yard. And in fact, I'll show you, let's see. Hold on. Oh, and I saw another question in here. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let's go back to this picture right here. Okay. Everyone can see this picture of the pool?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so that was actually my backyard in Rancho. And then if you look behind, there's a grass area. So a couple things I want to point out here. We had a small grass area for the dogs because I have no problem with grass at all. I think grass is great, especially for dogs. One of the dogs, and you might guess which one, wouldn't step on the grass to go pee. He would find a pole. They were both boys. He'd find a pole somewhere else in the yard on the cement to pee. So we actually got a fire hydrant, which you might see back there. And that was to motivate the dogs to go to the bathroom on the grass, and it worked. So if the grass was watered one extra day a week, then the plants, if you look at the fence line, there's a giant slope of water-wise plants behind there. I don't have any pictures. Well, for a slope like that, you want to turn the sprinklers on, go out there, turn them on for about 5 minutes, and stand there and see when the water starts to drain off the landscape and not absorb into the lawn. So if you have it on for 5 minutes, but after 4, it's no longer absorbing into the lawn or into the soil, but just running off, you only want to run it for 4 minutes. And then you want to run it again about an hour later for another 4 minutes. By doing that cycle and soak, it gets the water deep into the soil and reduces runoff of the water onto the street, the sidewalk, and into areas where you don't need it. Does that make sense?
Okay, I think we'll go to the next question. How much does it cost for someone to come and check for leaks from CVWD? It is free. Just call our phone number, and someone from our team will go out and check leaks.
It's an amazing service.
Yeah, so just call our number. I'll repeat the number one more time. So it's 909-987-2591.
Okay. And then Elda, I see your question. Is there a list on the type of washers that qualify for the rebate? There is. If you go to SoCalWatersmart.com, the last, it was in the last, the website was in the last slide. You can go to residential rebates and then go to washers, and there's a huge list of the washers that are eligible for the rebate. Also, if you go to a lot of the stores that sell washers, including the big box stores, they will actually, a lot of the people there that work there know which ones are eligible for the rebate, and a lot of them have signs on them if they're eligible. But that's a definite way you can actually apply in advance and get pre-approved for the rebate if you're interested. And Michael, how would you repair a straight broken underground line with elbow joints, joint coupler, blue glue, red glue, clear glue? Everybody, a lot of people use blue glue, but everything can leak. So, whenever it comes to irrigation, the answer is always, it depends. The couple of things I'll tell you here, the less joints or elbows you have, the better, because every time you have a pipe connecting with the pipe, you have the opportunity for a leak. I'm not sure what you're using, where you're putting it, but there's a lot of professional landscape stores in Rancho and in Ontario, like Ewing, I think, and Hydroscape. Go there and talk to the guys. They know their stuff. They're amazing. So you can take pictures with you of where you want to do your work, and they'll answer for you. Raina says, I think I have a leak outside somewhere. Our water pressure inside the house sometimes will change randomly. So we usually shut off the exterior water line. Okay, let me tell you about that one. Again, I'm gonna say it depends. The house is new to us, so we don't know anything about the irrigation system. What are some suggestions on how we can detect if it's multiple leaks? Okay, so Raina, what I have found is that a lot of people will have less pressure in the morning when their sprinklers are on. So not necessarily the whole street, because Cucamonga Valley Water District, as well as all water providers, have a lot of pressure in their system to provide water for everybody. But do you have less pressure when your sprinklers are on? So kind of make a note of that. The next thing is go out and check your water meter. You'll know tomorrow morning or tonight with a flashlight. Well, be careful. Spiders love the nighttime. Go out there in the morning, check your water meter, see if it's moving. If it is, then, you know, if you've got to shut off, every house is different. If you've got to shut off for all the irrigation, shut that off and see what happens. Also, turn on each one of your zones in your irrigation and make sure you've got good pressure, and make sure you don't have maybe a break in a pipe so the sprinklers go on, but when they go on, there's a lot of water pouring out, and you might end up losing a lot of pressure that way. And you know what? I'm gonna put, so does that answer your question? Nuts for the rebate. Okay, good. I much prefer seeing people's faces. I have to tell you. And you've got my information at the end. So if you want to, I'll put it here. You can copy and paste it. Garden Girl. And you can always call all the experts at Cucamonga Valley Water District. The leak team also knows irrigation. They're really good. They know their stuff. So the pool filter is different than the autofill. So the autofill, they might come out and tell you if it's continuously running, but the pool filter has nothing to do with water. So your pool man could probably tell you about that. But do you mean filler?
Debbie, we have another question from Rena.
I know. See, so irrigation valves, let's see. Your question was about irrigation controller valves. What do you want to know? Be more specific. Raina, I need to know.
I think, before that, she said, we also have irrigation valves that leak. Do you suggest repairing parts or replacing entire valves, irrigation control valves, if they seem old?
You know, most irrigation valves, not most, a lot, when you turn them on and off, will leak, or water will kind of pour out of them. If they are always leaking, that's bad. If they only leak when you turn it on and off, it's not a big deal. But if you find that they are really old, putting in a new one, you want to do it right. So if you're going to do it and start over, you can email me or look online or go to one of the professional stores and ask them about changing them out. Repairing them, you could repair them too. It's very inexpensive. If you have old metal ones, some of those are pretty sturdy, and lots of times they just need to be flushed. So dirt and little pieces of soil will end up in there, and so once in a while you just need to take it off and flush it out and clean it, and they're good as new. So are they leaking all the time or just when you turn them on and off? All the time. So then, okay, and now you want to see how big it is. What I highly recommend and what I love people to do is either when you go to bed at night or if you're leaving the house for a couple hours during the day and no one's going to be home, take a picture of your water meter before you leave the house. And then when you come home, take a picture of the water meter. See how much water was lost during that time. If it's just a little bit of water just trickling out, it may not be worth the money to repair the valves, because a valve can be, 100 plus. So depending on who's doing it, if they know what they're doing. But if they're really old and they really don't function well, it's worth fixing it. But I haven't seen them, so I don't really know. So Cora, can you give everybody the option to talk?
Let me.
Oh, not on this?
Not on this one.
Well, if you can't see anybody, I like seeing people. Oh yeah, I see right here. I can allow you to talk. Oh, sorry, you guys. Looks like I can make
Hi, can you hear me?
Raina, can you talk now? Yes.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I actually have one more question. Both of those were very helpful. Thank you. I have one more.
Good.
Inside the house. So the house is new to me, like I mentioned, and so we don't know much about anything here. And inside the house, when we had hooked up a new refrigerator, the ice maker and the water dispenser didn't work properly. We assume it has something to do with kind of the water pressure being affected by leaks somewhere around the house, and we haven't quite figured it out yet. But is there anything else you can think of that might be causing the ice maker and water dispenser to not be able to function correctly besides like a water pressure issue?
That doesn't sound like water pressure to me. It sounds like maybe it wasn't hooked up right. What you could do is you could call Cucamonga Valley, ask if they'll come out and check the pressure. So that's a great place to start, is have them come out, and maybe you want to take advantage of the program of the free pressure regulator.
Yeah, we did get put onto the wait list for that program because we just saw that they had that, and so we called and they put us on the wait list. They said it takes a little while though, just because it's a long wait list, and they're going to send someone out to take a look, but they said that they'll only do essentially the city side, and so anything inside the house is really not their responsibility. So I don't know if the guy who comes is going to be willing to take a look at inside plumbing issues as well.
Well, they typically will check the pressure going into the house, and that's what you care about. So they'll check, and if not, you can buy a little testing device. Gosh, they're like $10 to test the water pressure at your house, or maybe one of your neighbors has one. So you can test your own pressure too to see if that's a problem. I don't think it's the problem, but start with the pressure and then Google why aren't they getting any pressure? Because that's interesting. I just wonder if they have it hooked up right. I feel like I've heard this story before.
Yeah, we did try asking the seller and the manufacturer to just kind of check if we've, connected everything correctly. And it seemed like we did. But like the ice maker generates a little bit of ice, but it's not the right amount. And then as far as the water dispenser goes, I don't think really any water comes out. So something's odd about it. But it makes some ice. So it's not like there's no water going to it.
That's interesting. We'll have them check the water pressure going into the house and, start there.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do that. And the water meter, we'll check and see what else is going on. And then once we figure out the leaks on the exterior side of the home, maybe that will give us more. Like once we start narrowing things down, then we'll have more hints.
And see how, good. And see how big those leaks are. Like I said, check it. Does anybody or does the family leave the house for at least an hour at a time?
Yeah, we can certainly.
Because the other way of doing it is when you're home, just take a photo and an hour later take a photo. But while you're home, you cannot use water. That means you can't turn on the sink. You can't go to the bath. You can go to the bathroom. You can't flush the toilet. So you can't use water for a complete hour. And then you'll see the comparison on your water meter before and after. You can also call or email the water team, and they can tell you, they can look at your water flow and tell you if you've got some sort of a continuous flow issue, because they can see it also. I think I might have lost you for a second there. Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I do now. I didn't hear you for a little while.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. You can also call the team, the water prevention team at Cucamonga Valley Water District. You can call or email them and ask them if the data shows that you have a continuous water flow issue.
Okay.
So before you start spending money, let's see how big that flow issue is, or if you really have one.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good. Sure. I think everybody's unmuted now. I didn't hear the dog barking. Any other questions?
Anyone else have any questions for Debbie? Now that we have her online, we have one hand up from Rena.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry I did that by accident.
Okay.
I apologize.
Well, if that's it, you've got my contact. I'll go back to the final slide so that you guys can contact either one of us if you have questions. Okay, so you've got all that information, and feel free to contact me, Coral, or the main number at Cucamonga Valley Water District if you have questions. If you're looking at landscape advice, you can always send it again to me or the experts there. Attend the classes. And if you're talking irrigation, the guys at Hydroscape and Ewing are incredible and a great resource.
Yeah, Debbie, can you go back to my slider class?
Which one?
Oh, actually, it's fine. So just a reminder, tomorrow we will have the winner of the raffle for the free toilet. will be posted on social media, and they'll be contacted on Monday through email from me. And again, follow us at CVWD. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact myself, Sakura, or Debbie to learn more, to answer your questions. Again, this is the free high efficiency toilet provided by San Antonio Water Company plus installation. And again, thank you so much for attending tonight for a Fix the Leak week. Debbie, oh yes, and visit us at cvwwater.com/rebates to learn about rebates, and then our landscape workshops at cvwwater.com/landscape workshops. There you will learn about our Cyclone Savvy workshop on April 22nd for Earth Week, and then our other workshop, our landscape workshop in May. And again, visit CVWD to learn about any upcoming events, anything we offer on our website. Just continuously watch for any events there.
Debbie, can you repeat one more
And
time that landscaping company that you recommended? What was the name?
Oh, the two, there's probably a list. The two really popular ones in Rancho in Ontario for irrigation information is Hydroscape and Ewing.
Hydroscape and
Ewing, E-W-I-N-G.
Ah, okay. Ewing.
So I like to take pictures of my issues and then go down there and talk to the guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Sakura.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Thanks, and thanks for dealing with my technical difficulties. I'm working from a different computer and it's fascinating.
All good. It happens. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.